Well, I finally, guys, I'm still learning this camera. I'm telling you, it is bad when you do not know what you're doing. If this camera falls off during shooting, I'll not be surprised either. This is kind of a, I don't want to say sad video, but it is. Someone that I used to date died this weekend. And for those of you on the Facebook, you know, Jeremy Meador died in a car crash this weekend. And it's really got me thinking, because that's just like the last person I would have ever expected. It's kind of crazy. And because he was wild. Like, he was just artistic, and you know, he battled I'm sorry, I'm playing with the camera. He battled addiction for a long time, and we had some knockout, drag out, you know, not fights, but we had some history. And it's so weird when people die that you spend intimate time with, and it's shocking. He's my age, so, you know, and he leaves behind a 10-year-old boy, and I think that his son really made him clean up his act. It just gets me I cannot believe it. I was so in love with this guy that I used to wear my friends out just talking about him. And he was such an artist. He there's nothing he couldn't do. Like, he would always have like the most amazing ideas of stuff to do. Like, if we're just sitting around, it's like, let's go to Michael's, and let's go to the craft store, and let's go get some fabric, and let's build something. And it stayed with me forever. And it's my favorite thing to do still, is let's go to the art store, let's get something, let's do something, let's color something, let's draw on something, let's paint something. Just always wanting to do something and build something and make something. The world was not enough if you weren't making. And I loved that about him. And I remember one of our last conversations, I was telling him, you know, I really don't like painting on canvas anymore. I feel like I want to, when I do get a canvas, I just want to paint designs. And he's like, why don't you get things to paint on, you know, like boxes and stuff like that. And it was just amazing. And I don't think I've ever been with someone so artistic and who saw the world so differently, and was always up for adventure. And, you know, even at the heart of his addiction was a sweet guy. And, you know, you could never be mad at him for long, because he was just a charmer, and he'd sweet talk, you know, he was just sweet. Like, whatever he did it was never meant to hurt you personally. You know, he was hurting himself more than he was hurting anybody. So, but God, I don't think I've seen him in over 9 years, but still seeing that, you know, he keeps up with my posts and on Facebook, and wow, it's shocking. It is really, really shocking. You know, you would think that an addict would, you know, die from their addiction. And what's interesting is both of the guys that I dated that were meth addicts are dead now. And the first one, I don't even know what he died of. I'm thinking suicide. And Jeremy was just a complete accident. And that was a complete accident, because I know that he loved his son, and I know that he really wanted to stay around and teach him the things that he knew, which were limitless and amazing, and just the most incredible imagination I had ever seen. And so funny and beautiful, just a beautiful person. And, you know, my heart goes out to his parents. You know, they're a close family, and I can't even imagine what this is doing. And if I had balls, I would call them, but it's just, I'm sure it's too, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what it must feel like to lose a child. The baby. I think he was the baby. of the family. With everything I've been, dealing with lately and thinking about, this is something. Sometimes things just don't make sense. They just don't make sense. I hope he's watching over me, and I hope that he, visits me and haunts me, because I would love to hear what he has to say about projects or give me artistic inspiration or something. But yeah. People are taken way too soon. I'm gonna be thinking about him a lot for a while, because he's just someone, when you were around him, you just felt cool. You were one of the cool kids. I remember, God, there's so many things to remember. I remember moving into one of my apartments, and he was there, and I got in this place where I was calling him Meador by his last name, and he was like, they were like, what is she calling you? He's like, she calls me by my last name, like we're in gym class. It was just funny. I know he wanted to be in journalism, and he loved building things and making things with his hands, and he was talented in silk screens, and he used to make t-shirts, and he used to cook up stuff, and every time I'd call him, I remember one time I called him and I said, what are you doing? And he's like, cooking breakfast for my nephew and listening to ska, or, fixing the pool and listening to jazz, just, it was always, a music accompaniment and something cool he was doing and making, and, wow, it's just, I spent so much time with him when we were spending time. I couldn't wait to see him. Every time I got to see him, I remember I was in nursing school, and he was one of the highlights. He was kind of my reward. He was he was wild. You couldn't keep tabs on him. He was always changing his number. He was, never at home. And he was an addict, and he was running around, and I have no idea what was, but when I would get a hold of him, we'd spend time. It'd be all day and all night, and it was a great time. It was never a dull moment, that's for sure. He's just one of those people that really stands out in my life, in my mind about my life, and this is, I'll never be the same. I wouldn't want to be. They say everyone that comes into your life changes you, makes you who you are. He added color. Definitely pushed me into a new arena of art, a new way to be, a new way to think, a new way to create. To always be looking for the opportunity to create and to make something, and now nothing satisfies me more than making something, Like me, he didn't like to really... No, I guess he did. He liked to fish. Remember, we went to Galveston one time, and he was fishing in the ocean. He got way out in the water and was fishing. And I was like, this man is such a wild man, He just looks so great out in the ocean. With his shirt off, and he kind of big muscles. Just I felt very protected when I was with him. He was one of the, I guess, bigger guys I dated. He wasn't fat. He was just, you just felt safe. He had something to him, and he felt great. He just felt great to give hugs to, and I felt safe around him, and he was great. I can't say a negative thing about him. So much craziness. Oh, Jeremy, I'm glad that we talked in the last year. I'm glad it was a great conversation. With everything I'm going through right now, it's really made me stop and think, whoa, 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 whoa. You need to stop and remember some people and some things that have blessed your path. Oh. You know, he was so intelligent. One of the best conversationalists I have ever talked to. When you were relating with Jeremy, you felt heard, and he added, I feel like the art of conversation is dying. And he introduced me to some other artists. I remember one of our first dates, he took me to his friend's house, and we ended up playing with like Play-Doh stuff, all four of us, and they were artists too. And we ended up playing with this Play-Doh stuff, and like our second date, we went to an art show, and he was just so into the art world in a way that you would only envision like New York being. Just so cool. But I don't know what I was saying before that. Oh, conversation. He was just so engaging. You know, you'd say something and he'd add and he'd laugh, and you know, he was tuned in. When you were with him or you were talking to him, he was tuned in like tentacles strapped into you, and you felt engaged, and it was a real connection that I don't think I have found since then. When I would talk to him or be around him, it was just such a strong bond, and I'm so upset, and it makes me want to go get a tattoo, of course, because this is... I remember one time we went to a flea market on my birthday, and I had to work, unfortunately, but he came in the morning and surprised me, and then he took me to the flea market up the street and bought me a little coin purse, and I think I still have that. It's a little pink Asian looking... Yeah, I don't know where it is. I'll have to find that though, but yeah, he bought me that. Wow. And every time I've looked at it over the years, I thought, oh, it's so nice. I remember one time he dumpster dove all the time, you know, to get bits and pieces for his art. And he felt like a whole jewelry box. And he came over to my house and was like, let's go through this. And we went through it and we're like, whoa, whoa, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. You know, somebody's random shit, but completely intact. And, you know, we went through it, and just fun, just a fun, big-hearted, engaging, intelligent, tuned in, turned on man. And part of his craziness was part of his beauty. The world was just not enough for him. He had to create his own. He was so interested in what wasn't there than what was there, because he wanted to create it. He wanted to create something new that wasn't, you know, that wasn't there, and make it that much better. Oh, I feel so bad for his son. I cannot imagine. I want to take him as my own. I'm sure his mom wouldn't like that, but I remember for years, you know, he would talk about, I know that I've got a kid out there. I know I've got a son out there. And I'm like, are you sure? You know, are you sure? And he was like, I know it. And then maybe like 3 years later, after we stopped talking, we talked, and he's like, well, he's with me now. You know, me and the mom talked, and he lives with me full time now. I'm like, what? And then you see pictures of him, you're like, oh my God, like a spinning image of Jeremy. I'm so glad he got to know his son. I wish that he'd have been there for him. It really, I don't know if he knows how amazing his dad was and how much he turned his life around for him. And I wish I could take that kid. I really do, just to have a piece of Jeremy. Because if he has he's got Jeremy's DNA. I mean, he's got to be an artist. He's got to be incredible. He's got to be emotional and sensitive and tuned in to life. And Jeremy was just otherworldly. He was otherworldly. He was the most magical person I have ever known. He introduced me to Management, the band. I remember he liked Faded to Pretend. One time we got in a fight in my apartment, and I was in another room, and he stormed out the door, and I look up, and he had stole my heart record. Like, I had Dreamboat Annie, like, on vinyl, right? And I used to have the record on display because I loved the way Ann Wilson looked in it. He stole it, so that I would have to see him again, to get it back. Like, he held it for ransom. I'm like, you are so weird. He was so weird. I'm trying to remember everything. There were so many antics. I remember the first time I realized he was on speed or meth. I called him and he was like, I'm like, where are you? And he's like, just come pick me up. I'm looking for my car. I'm like, you're looking for your car. Okay. So then we go on this wild goose chase around all this parking lot, going up and down, up and down, up and down. He swears that his car is there. He loaned it to somebody. I'm like, who'd you loan your car to? Call them. What are you talking about? And it dawns on me after about an hour of this. I was like, what are you on? And he told me, and I didn't know to that point. And I'm like, oh my God, hell no, hell no, hell no. That didn't stop me. Because when he wasn't on it, he was fine. But he took me on some... when you're around a crazy person, you start to feel crazy. Like, he would just be out of it. And just rambling and... Wow. Jeremy Meador. So glad I met you. You'll never be forgotten. You're a big, big, big part of me. He had a big koi tattoo on his forearm. Koi is so pretty. Big koi fish. I don't know if he ever finished it. Probably not. I think it was this arm. So pretty. Oh. I pray for his child and his family right now. Jeremy Meador, you crazy, crazy guy. Thank you. Thank you for blessing my life with your light and your color and your textures.